The desert wind howled like a living thing, carrying sharp grains of sand that scratched against the metal walls of Aaron Cole's small workshop. Inside, the lights flickered as the storm outside grew stronger, rattling the doors and windows. Aaron, a man in his mid-30s, with grease-stained hands and a tired face, was bent over the engine of an old cargo hauler. He had seen storms before, big ones, but something about tonight felt different. The air was tense, heavy, like the whole planet was holding its breath. He tightened the last bolt and set his tools aside, glancing toward the door when a strange sound cut through the noise of the wind. It wasn't the creak of metal or the whistle of air, it was softer, almost human, a cry. Aaron frowned, wiping his hands on a rag as he stepped to the door. The wind slammed into him the moment he opened it, nearly pushing him back. The swirling wall of dust, he thought he saw movement, a shadow, small and quick. "Hello?" he called, raising his voice over the roar of the storm. No answer. He squinted, stepping out into the grit and darkness. Lightning flashed, revealing two small figures huddled near the side of his workshop. They were curled together, shaking, Haran's gut-twisted children, out here, in the middle of this hellish night. He ran to them, dropping to his knees. "Hey, are you hurt?" His voice was firm but not harsh. The smaller figure lifted her head just enough for him to see her face. Her skin was pale, almost silver under the lightning, and her eyes too large. Glowing faintly, were nothing like a human's. Aaron froze for a split second. Aliens weren't uncommon on the trade routes, but in this remote settlement and these two, they didn't look like travelers. They looked lost. One of them coughed weakly, and that was enough to shake him into motion. "Come on," he said, scooping the smaller one into his arms while the older one clung to his sleeve. "You'll die out here." Inside the workshop, the heat from the generator wrapped around them. Aaron shut the door hard and set the girl down on a workbench, grabbing a blanket from a storage crate. The older one, maybe 12 or 13 years old, kept her body between him and the younger one, as if she expected him to hurt them. "It's okay," Aaron said slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you." Didn't reply, but their wide, glowing eyes followed his every move. The younger girl was shaking badly, her lips almost blue. Aaron poured hot water from his kettle into a metal mug and pushed it toward them. "Drink, it's safe." The older one hesitated before taking it, letting the younger sip first. She murmured something in a language Aaron didn't understand, soft, musical, and strange. As they warmed up, Aaron noticed the torn clothing, the scuffed shoes, and the thinness of their arms. They hadn't eaten well in a long time. Opened a packet of ration bread and pushed it toward them. They devoured it like they hadn't seen food in days. After a while, the storm outside grew even worse, shaking the walls. Aaron knew no one would be going anywhere tonight. He pulled another blanket from the crate and set it on the floor near the small heater. "You can stay here until morning," he said. For a long moment, they didn't move. Then, slowly they curled up under the blanket, the older girl keeping one arm protectively around the younger. Aaron turned to check the generator, but a quiet voice made him stop. "Why help us?" It was the older one, her voice accented but clear enough. Aaron looked back at her, surprised she spoke any English at all. "'Cause no one deserves to die in a storm," he said simply. "Not on my watch." She stared at him for a few seconds, as if weighing his words, then gave the faintest nod. The younger one's eyes were already closing, just before sleep took her. The older girl whispered something in English, her voice barely audible over the hum of the heater. "They will come for you one day." Aaron felt a chill that had nothing. To do with the storm? Who? He asked, but she didn't answer. Her eyes slid shut, and soon both girls were asleep. The wind outside screamed against the walls. But inside, Aaron sat in silence, staring at the two strangers he had pulled from the darkness. He didn't know where they came from, who was after them, or why he felt the strange urge to protect them. All he knew was that this night had changed something. He could feel it in his bones, deep and certain. Whatever these girls were running from, whatever danger was out there, it was now heading straight for him. And it was only a matter of time before it arrived. The storm had passed by morning, leaving the settlement coated in a thin layer of red dust. Aaron stepped outside, stretching stiff muscles, and glanced at the horizon. The sky was clear now, pale blue with two suns rising slowly over the dunes. The air was calm, but he knew storms out here never left without taking something with them. Inside his workshop, the two alien girls were still asleep, curled together under the blanket. Aaron made himself a cup of bitter trade coffee and watched them for a while. The younger one's breathing was steady now, her silver skin no longer pale from the cold. The older one woke first, blinking at him cautiously. "You're still here," she said quietly, as if she had expected him to be gone. "Where else would I be?" Aaron replied, sipping his coffee. "You were half frozen last night. How's your sister?" The older girl looked down at the younger one. "Better," she said after a pause. "Her name is Lyra. My name is Kale." Aaron nodded. Kale didn't smile, but her posture relaxed slightly. She glanced around the workshop, her eyes lingering on the old ships and parts stacked along the walls. "You fix machines," she said. "That's right." Aaron leaned back against the workbench. "Where are your parents?" Kale's eyes darkened, and she didn't answer. Lyra stirred in her sleep, and Kale smoothed her hair gently like a mother would. Aaron decided not to push. He had learned long ago that some questions only made wounds deeper. Instead, he asked, "You hungry?" Within minutes, he had a small pan on the heater, cooking dried meat and flatbread. The smell filled the workshop, and when Lyra awoke, she sat up quickly, eyes fixed on the food. They ate quietly, and Aaron noticed how Kale always gave her sister the bigger portion, even when she was clearly hungry herself. After breakfast, Kale stood and walked to the door. Peeking outside, her movements were sharp, careful like someone used to being hunted. Aaron joined her. "No bounty hunters out there," he said lightly, "if that's what you're looking for." She looked at him sharply. "How do you know?" Aaron shrugged. "I've seen their type before. The way you move, the way you keep looking over your shoulder. You're hiding from someone?" Kale didn't answer, but the faint flicker in her eyes told him he was right. The next few days passed in a strange rhythm. Aaron kept working on his machines, and the girls stayed close, helping where they could. Kale was quick to learn, asking questions about engines, tools, and repairs. Lyra liked to sit on an old stool and draw patterns in the dust with a piece of metal scrap. One evening, as the suns dipped low and painted the sky in golden red, Aaron found Kale sitting outside, staring at the horizon. He sat beside her. To need a plan," he said. "If someone's after you, you can't just hide in my shop forever." Kale's jaw tightened. "We had a plan. We were going to find the port, take a ship, and go far away." She hesitated, but they're watching the ports. They know our faces. Aaron studied her. She was young, but there was steel in her voice. Whoever these hunters were, they'd taken everything from her, except her will, to protect her sister. "I could help you," Aaron said. Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" He sighed, looking at the fading suns. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. Because if I walk away, I'll think about it every night for the rest of my life." She didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, "If you help us, they'll come for you too." Aaron smiled faintly. "I've made enemies before." The decision was made without more words. Over the next 2 weeks, Aaron worked on a battered escape pod that had been sitting in his yard for years. Kale and Lyra helped gather parts, sometimes sneaking into the market to trade for supplies. Aaron kept an eye out for strangers, but the settlement was quiet for now, the night before they planned to leave. Kale sat by the pod, running her hand over the patched metal. "Thank you," she said suddenly. Aaron looked at her. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do," she said, her voice steady. "You saved us. I will not forget." She hesitated, then added, "When the stars call, you must answer." Aaron frowned. "What does that mean?" "You'll know," she said simply, and walked away to join Lyra. The next morning, before the suns rose, Aaron helped them load what little food and water they had into the pod. The hatch closed, and Kale's face was the last thing he saw. Before the engines roared to life, as the pod lifted into the pale sky, Aaron felt a strange emptiness settle in his chest. He told himself it was over now, that whatever trouble they carried was gone with them. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true, and far above the desert planet, two small figures stared out at the stars, whispering in a language no human could understand, promising they would return. 10 years had passed since that night in the storm. Aaron Cole's life had fallen into a slow, steady rhythm. The desert settlement had grown a little new. Traders came through. Fresh faces appeared in the market, but his days still began and ended in the same small workshop. He fixed cargo haulers, patched up mining drones, and occasionally repaired a farmer's old wind turbine. He rarely thought about the two alien girls anymore. At least that's what he told himself. In truth, there were nights when he'd glance at the sky and wonder where they were, if they were still alive. And sometimes, when the storms rolled in, he'd remember the silver skin, the glowing eyes, the strange warning, "They will come for you one day." It was late evening when the first sign of trouble came. Aaron was closing up the shop when he noticed something odd, a low, humming sound in the distance. At first he thought it was a trader's ship, but it didn't match the usual rhythm of thrusters. It was deeper, slower, almost like a predator's growl. He stepped outside, scanning the sky. The twin suns were dipping low, casting long shadows across the dunes. Far off, a faint shape moved against the fading light, dark, sleek, and flying without any navigation lights. Aaron narrowed his eyes. Whoever it was, they weren't here for trade. The next morning, rumors began to spread. A mining crew out by the western ridge had spotted strange lights in the night sky. Someone swore they'd seen a ship landing just beyond the dunes, and the local trader, an old man named Harlow, claimed that 3 strangers had come into his shop asking about the human mechanic. Aaron didn't like the sound of that. That night he sat in his workshop long after dark, pretending to work while his ears stayed sharp for any sound outside. The hum came again, faint but closer this time. He turned off the lights and peered. Through a crack in the shutters, out beyond the edge of the settlement, a small craft hovered just above the ground. Its hull was black, absorbing the moonlight, and strange red symbols pulsed along its side. 2 figures stepped out, tall and thin, wearing masks that hid their faces. Aaron's gut twisted. He'd seen hunters before, but these were different too. Precise, too silent. They moved like they already knew where they were going. He backed away from the window and reached for the old plasma cutter he kept by the workbench. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. He waited, muscles tense, listening to the sound of their boots crunching against the dirt outside. Then, nothing. Minutes passed. The footsteps faded. Aaron let out a slow breath and tried to convince himself they'd just passed by. But deep inside, he knew better. They weren't looking for just anyone. They were looking for him. 2 days later, the first real confrontation came. Aaron was in the market, picking up a shipment of metal sheets, when Harlow waved him over. "You've got trouble," the old trader said under his breath. Aaron frowned. "What kind of trouble, offworlders? Is asking your name in every shop? They're not the friendly type. I told them I didn't know you, but..." Harlow leaned closer. They had the eyes of men who kill for money. Aaron didn't reply. His mind went to Kale and Lyra. Had something happened to them? Were these men connected to the people who had hunted the girls all those years ago? That night he couldn't sleep. The hum came again, closer now. He went outside, scanning the desert. A cold wind swept across the sand, carrying the faint glow of something in the distance. For a moment, Aaron thought it was the same black craft he'd seen before. But this was larger, brighter, with a faint blue trail glowing in the air behind. It rose from behind the dunes, paused, and then shot straight up into the sky, vanishing into the stars. Aaron stood there a long time, the cold biting at his skin. Whoever these people were, they weren't giving up. And for the first time in years, he felt that same certainty he'd felt the night of the storm. Trouble was coming. It's not just for him, but for everyone around him. The next morning, a message arrived at his workshop. No name, no sender, just a thin piece of metal with a single word carved into it, : wait. Aaron stared at it for a long time, turning it over in his hands. Whatever was happening, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. By the third day after the strange message, the settlement was restless. People whispered in the market, glancing up at the sky as if they expected something to appear at any moment. Aaron kept to his workshop, trying to focus on work, but his mind was elsewhere. The hum he'd heard, the black craft, the carved word wait, it all fit together in a way he didn't yet understand. Late in the afternoon, the ground began to shake. At first, Aaron thought it was a quake rare, but not impossible on this planet. Then the sound came, deep and powerful, making the walls tremble. He stepped outside, and his breath caught in his chest. A ship was descending over the settlement. Not a trader's shuttle, not a mining hauler. This was something far larger, shaped like a blade and glowing faintly along its edges. The hull shimmered in the sunlight, and great engines roared as dust blasted across the streets. People ran, some screaming, others grabbing whatever they could carry. Doors slammed, children were pulled inside, and a few brave souls stood frozen. Staring upward, the ship slowed, hovering above the open plain just outside the settlement. A deep mechanical voice boomed from somewhere within its hull, speaking. In a language Aaron didn't know, then in perfect English it said, "Aaron Cole, we come for you." Every head turned toward him. Aaron felt heat rise to his face. This was no coincidence. Whoever was aboard that ship knew his name, knew exactly where to find him. The ship's side opened, revealing a ramp that touched the ground with a heavy thud. Figures emerged, tall soldiers in silver armor, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. They moved in two precise lines, not aiming weapons, but carrying something between them. It was a sealed metal case, long and narrow, with strange markings etched into its surface. The markings pulsed faintly as though alive. Aaron didn't move. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to obey. One of the soldiers stepped forward and placed the case on the ground at his feet. "For you," the soldier said in a voice that was flat and mechanical. Aaron crouched, his hands hovering over the case. What is this?" No answer came. The lock released with a soft click, and the lid rose slowly on its own. Inside lay a dark cloth, and resting on it a glowing metal insignia shaped like a star. Next to it, a folded sheet of strange, smooth material covered in alien writing. Aaron reached out. In the moment his fingers brushed the insignia, a faint hum filled the air. The soldier stood still, watching him but making no move to stop him. He lifted the folded sheet. It felt warm, almost like it was alive. A small device in the corner blinked once, and projected words into the air above it. "We need you. Our world is dying." Before he could react, movement at the edge of the ramp caught his eye. Two figures were walking down toward him. Aaron's heart skipped. The first was tall, wearing a long dark coat, her silver skin catching the sunlight. Her eyes still glowed faintly, though sharper now, more focused. The second, shorter, but still graceful, wore a uniform covered in strange symbols. Kale, Lyra. Older now. Stronger, but unmistakably the same two girls he had pulled from the storm. A decade ago, Kale stopped in front of him. Her expression was calm, but her voice was steady and urgent. "Aaron Cole, we kept our promise. Now you must keep yours." Aaron's mouth felt dry. What promise? Lyra stepped forward, her voice softer, but carrying the same weight. "When the stars call, you must answer. Memories of that storm meet. Night rushed back to him, the cold, the fear in their eyes. The strange words Kale had spoken before they left. "You're in trouble, Aaron," said Kale, shook her head. "Not just us. An entire world. And only you can help." Aaron glanced at the massive ship, the armored soldiers, the strange insignia still glowing faintly in his hands. "Why me?" Kale's gaze didn't waver. "'Cause our world's last. Hope is something humans built, long before you were born. And you are the only one who can fix it." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of metal and fuel from the ship's engines. Aaron looked back toward the settlement. People were still, watching, fear and curiosity on their faces. If he stepped onto that ship, he knew his life would change forever. If he stayed, he might never find out the truth behind the girls, the message, and the danger they brought with them. Kale extended her hand. "Come with us." Aaron hesitated only a moment before taking it. The soldiers closed the case. The ramp began to rise, and the massive ship lifted into the sky. The settlement shrank below them, the desert stretching out to the horizon. Aaron stared ahead, heart pounding. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, a dying world was waiting for him, and he had no idea what he was about to face. The ship's engines hummed steadily as it climbed higher, leaving the planet far behind. Aaron sat in a small metal-walled chamber that felt too clean. It's polished compared to the dusty workshop he'd called home for years. Kale and Lyra sat. Across from him, their uniforms sharp, their posture straight. Time had changed them. Kale's once cautious eyes now held the confidence of a leader. And Lyra, no longer a timid child, moved with quiet purpose. For a long time, no one spoke. The silence was thick, broken only by the distant thrum of the engine's dot. Aaron finally said, 10 years and not a word. "Then you show up in a warship telling me I'm supposed to save your world." Kale didn't flinch. "Couldn't contact you before. It would have been dangerous for you, and for us. But now we have no choice." Lyra leaned forward, her voice calm but urgent. "Our homeworld, Sereth, is dying. The air is failing. The seas are poisoned. We've kept our people alive with ancient machines made by humans centuries ago. But now the central power system, the ancient core, is failing." Aaron frowned. "Ancient core? Why would humans build something on your world?" Kale exchanged a glance with Lyra before answering. "Long before our people had space travel, a fleet of human explorers came. They built cities, machines, even the core itself. Then they vanished. No one knows why. But the core still runs on. Their designs, and no one alive understands it." Lyra added quietly, "Until we met you." Aaron let out a dry laugh. "I'm just a mechanic. I fix haulers and generators. I'm not some legendary engineer." "You're more than that," Kale said firmly. "When you fixed our escape pod, all those years ago, you used methods we had never seen. You understood human tech instinctively. The core systems respond only to human interface codes. Without you, it will fail, and our people will die." Aaron rubbed his forehead, feeling the weight of their words. "And what's stopping you from just finding another human?" Kale's tone turned grim. "The Empire." Aaron's stomach tightened. "Empire." Lyra nodded. "The Zoric Empire. They control most of the galaxy now. They hunt down anyone who can use old human technology. They've erased entire colonies for it. That's why we were being hunted when you found us." Memories of the bounty hunters from years ago flashed in Aaron's mind, their cold eyes, their methodical searching. It all made sense now. Kale's voice softened. "We joined the Sereth Defense Fleet. We've fought the Empire for years. Now we command this ship. But we cannot save our world without you." Aaron leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a moment. "So you're saying that if I come with you, I'll be walking straight into the middle of a war?" "Yes," Kale said simply. "And if I say no?" Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "Then Sereth will die. And the Empire will keep growing until there's no one left who remembers what humans once were." Aaron looked at them both. They weren't the frightened girls he had taken in. They were warriors, now commanders, but they still carried that same fire in their eyes. The fire to protect, the fire to survive. After a long pause, Aaron said, "All right, I'll help you. But I'm not promising I can fix it." Cale's lips curved into the faintest smile. "That's all we ask." The ship's intercom crackled, and a voice announced, approaching hyperspace gate. "Prepare for jump." Aaron followed Cale and Lyra to the command deck. The view took his breath away. Stars scattered across the black void. A massive ring-shaped structure ahead, glowing with blue energy. "This is how you travel across the galaxy in days instead of years," Lyra explained. The ship slid into position, engines roaring. The blue glow intensified, and in a burst of light, they were gone. Moments later, the view shifted. Now they were deep in space. A cluster of stars glowing in the distance. Cale pointed toward a faint green dot. "That's Sarathholm." Aaron stared at it, a strange feeling twisting in his chest. He was really doing this as they drew closer. He could see the beauty beneath the damaged vast oceans, silver cities, and green forests scarred by black patches of decay. But before they could reach orbit, a warning alarm sounded. Multiple contacts, the pilot reported. "Zorik warships incoming." Cale's voice was steady. "All hands to battle stations." Aaron gripped the edge of the console as sleek, dark enemy ships appeared on the scanners. His new life, it seemed, wasn't going to wait before throwing him into danger. The war had already found him. The warning sirens echoed through the ship, low and urgent. Red lights flashed along the walls as crew members hurried to their stations. Aaron stayed close to Cale, doing his best not to get in the way. Through the wide glass of the command deck, the enemy ships grew larger. Sleek and black, they moved, like predators, flanking the Seraph vessel in perfect formation. Their hulls glimmered faintly, as if they were absorbing the starlight itself. "How many?" Cale asked. "For frigates and one destroyer," the pilot replied, his voice tight. "All Zorik class." Aaron didn't know much about space combat, but the weight in the crew's expressions told him enough. This wasn't going to be an easy fight. Cale tapped a control on the armrest of her chair. "Raise shields, arm all forward cannons, take tactical." Lyra slid into position, her fingers moving quickly over glowing controls. "Locking targets. They're scanning us." A low hum passed through the ship as the shields came online. Aaron felt the faint vibration beneath his boots. The first shot came from the Inemia, thin lance of red energy slicing through space. It struck the Seraph ship's shields with a flash of light, making the deck shudder. "They're testing us," Cale said calmly. "Show them we bite." The ship's cannons roared, sending bursts of blue plasma toward the nearest frigate. The shot struck its side, ripping a hole in its armor. The enemy ship veered away, smoke and fire spilling into the void. Aaron gripped the railing, his heart pounding. This wasn't like the slow, predictable work of his workshop. This was chaos, fast, brutal, and unforgiving. Another enemy frigate moved in, firing a spread of missiles. The crew reacted instantly, the ship rolling to one side as countermeasures. Launched. The missiles exploded harmlessly in the distance, but the movement threw Aaron off balance. Cale glanced at him. "You all right? Just trying not to throw up," Aaron muttered. Lyra's voice cut in. "Destroyer is charging." "Main weapons? We won't survive a direct hit." Cale's eyes narrowed. "Divert power to forward shields." "Helm, take us under her hull." The ship dove sharply, slipping beneath the massive destroyer. Aaron caught a glimpse of its underbelly, rows of glowing vents and armored plating thicker than anything he'd seen. "Target their vent arrays," Cale ordered. The cannons fired again, striking the glowing sections. A chain of explosions rippled along the destroyer's side. The huge ship began to drift, its weapons dimming. Cheers erupted on the deck, but Cale didn't relax. Frigate still in pursuit. "Plot a course to the course site." The pilot hesitated. "It's deep in Empire-controlled space." Cale's tone was firm. "Then we'll have to be faster than them." Ship accelerated, engines straining. The remaining enemy frigates followed, firing at long range. Each hit made the deck shudder, but the shields held dash barely. Aaron watched as stars streaked past the glass. But one thing was clear. The Zoric Empire wasn't going to let them go easily. After nearly an hour of pursuit, Lyra called out, "They're breaking off. We've crossed the neutral zone." The crew let out a collective breath. Kale turned to Aaron. "Welcome to the war." Aaron shook his head slowly. "If that's the welcome, I'm not sure I want to see the rest." Kale managed a small smile. "You'll see worse before this is over." The ship's lights returned to normal as the red alert ended. Outside, the stars seemed calm again, hiding the violence that had just passed. Aaron leaned against the railing, his mind spinning. A week ago, he'd been fixing old engines in a dusty workshop. Now, he was being hunted through space by warships and heading straight into enemy territory. As the crew settled back into their stations, Kale approached him quietly. "We'll reach the core in 2 days. Get some rest, Aaron. You'll need it." But Aaron knew rest wouldn't come easy. It's not with the image of that massive destroyer burning in his mind. Not with the knowledge that the Empire now knew his name. And somewhere out there, beyond the stars, he could almost feel something. Waiting whatever was coming, the battle in space had only been the first test. The ruined world of Sereth came into view like a wounded animal drifting in the dark. From orbit, Aaron could see the scars, vast stretches of brown land where green forests had once been. Blackened craters in the seas, and cities lying silent, their lights long dead. The Serath ship descended through the thin clouds, passing over broken towers and rusted factories. Here and there, Aaron saw movement, small figures scavenging among the ruins. It felt wrong, like walking through the bones of something that had once been alive. They landed in the heart of an ancient city. The landing platform was cracked and overgrown with strange red plants. The air outside shimmered faintly, and Aaron's breath caught when he stepped onto the surface. It tasted metallic, with a bitter edge that made his lungs ache. "This is why we're dying," Kale said, pulling a small breathing mask over her face. "The core is the only thing that kept the air and water safe. Without it, Sereth will fall within months." A team of soldiers formed up around them as they moved toward a massive domed structure in the distance. The dome was built from smooth silver metal, streaked with centuries of grime. Strange human symbols were still carved into its surface, weathered, unmistakable. Aaron slowed his steps, running his hand over one of the carvings. It was an old Terran script, the kind he had only seen in forgotten repair manuals. "To build is to protect." Lyra saw him staring. "Your people wrote that, long before I was born." Inside the dome, the air was cooler, quieter. A wide, circular chamber stretched out before them, dominated by a towering machine in the center. It rose at least 30 meters high, a tangle of pipes, crystal conduits, and spinning mechanisms that glowed faintly with pale blue light. Aaron couldn't help it. He stepped forward, eyes scanning the structure like a mechanic sizing up a challenge. This is beautiful," he murmured. "It's dying," Kale said. "Can you fix it?" He moved closer, brushing dust off a control panel. The moment his hand touched it, the panel lit up with symbols and diagrams, human diagrams. The machine seemed to recognize him. "It's not just a power generator," Aaron said slowly. "It's a terraformer. Controls the atmosphere, the water cycles, even the soil." Lyra frowned. "We know that much. But why can't we repair?" Aaron tapped the glowing screen, bringing up deeper systems. "Because the command interface is locked. It's keyed to human DNA. No one but a human can access the maintenance codes." Kale's expression hardened, which means the Empire can't fix it either. Aaron stopped, a strange thought forming in his mind. "No, but they can destroy it, and if they do, they'll wipe out your entire planet in weeks." Before anyone could reply, a sharp alarm rang through the chamber. A soldier ran in from the entrance. "Commander, we have incoming multiple Zoric dropships." Kale cursed under her breath. "They followed us." Lyra turned to Aaron. "You have to start repairs now. We'll hold them off." Aaron's heart raced. "I don't even know if I can." "You can," Kale said firmly, gripping his shoulder. "You're human. This was built for you." The soldiers hurried to set up defensive positions as the sound of engines grew louder outside. Aaron turned back to the core, his hands moving over the controls. Layers of systems unfolded before him. Life support cycles, atmospheric regulators, shield emitters, all of them blinking with red warnings. The first shot from outside shook. The dome, dust falling from the ceiling. Aaron forced himself to focus. He bypassed damaged circuits, rerouted power from non-critical systems, and started purging the massive filters. The hum of the core grew louder, steadier. Blue light brightened along its conduits. But then he found something he didn't expect: a hidden file deep within the system, marked with an old human seal. He opened it. A hologram flickered to life above the console, and older. Human man in a simple engineer's uniform? His voice was calm, recorded centuries ago. To whoever finds this, know that humans were the first to walk among the stars. We built this core not only to protect this world, but as a beacon. One day it will call to our descendants wherever they are. If you are hearing this, the galaxy has forgotten us. It is time to remind them. Aaron stared at the hologram, the weight of the words pressing down on him. This wasn't just about saving Sereth. This was about revealing a truth the Empire had spent centuries burying. Outside weapons fire roared. Kale's voice came over. Come, Aaron. We can't hold them much longer. Aaron's hands flew over the controls. The core's power surged, the blue light flooding the chamber. A low, deep tone vibrated through the era signal, strong enough to carry beyond the planet, beyond the system, somewhere far away. Someone or something was going to hear it. And Aaron had just lit the beacon. The core's deep tone echoed. Through the dome, like the heartbeat of a giant, blue light pulsed from its conduits, washing over the chamber walls and spilling into the sky through cracks in the dome. Outside, the air shimmered as if the entire planet was taking a breath for the first time in years. Aaron stepped back from the console, his chest heaving. It's running, he said, but it's not at full power yet. It'll need time to stabilize. Kale's voice crackled over the her tone tight with strain. Time is the one thing we don't have. The Empire just landed a heavy assault team. The sound of weapons fire and shouted orders carried through the dome's entrance. Aaron could hear the sharp hiss of energy rounds striking armor. Lyra's voice broke through next. Aaron, if they breach the chamber, they'll destroy the core. You have to protect it. I'm not a soldier, Aaron shouted back. You're the only one the core will listen to, Lyra replied. If you fall, it falls with you. The entrance shook under a violent explosion. A section of the wall caved inward, spraying debris across the chamber. Through the smoke, dark shapes emerged, soldiers in black armor, their helmets shaped like jagged predator skulls. Aaron ducked behind the console as the Sereth guards opened fire. Blue plasma bolts lit the room, cutting down the first wave of attackers. But more kept coming. Kale burst into the chamber, armor scorched, rifle smoking. We're falling back to the inner ring. Aaron, keep the core running. I'm trying, he called, fingers flying over the controls. Warnings flashed: power surges, overload risk. The core shut down now. The restart would take hours they didn't have. Lyra appeared at Kale's side, her eyes scanning the enemy line. They're bringing in heavy repeaters. The next blast shook the core itself, making the floor tremble. Aaron swore under his breath, rerouting more energy into the shield emitters hidden beneath the dome. A translucent barrier flared too. Life, cutting off the attackers from the central console, temporarily. They'll burn through that in minutes, Kale warned. Aaron ignored the chaos for a moment, staring at the interface. The beacon signal was still broadcasting, stronger now, reaching farther than he thought possible. He didn't know who could hear it, or what they would do when they did. The Empire troops pushed forward, pouring fire into the shield. Cracks of light rippled across its surface. Aaron, Kale shouted. I just need a little more. He stopped. A new signal had appeared on the console, faint but steady, not from Sereth. Not from any known system in the database. It was an answer before. Aaron could read it. The shield collapsed. The Zoric soldiers surged into the chamber. Kale and Lyra moved like lightning, their rifles cutting down the first attackers. But the second wave was already inside. Aaron grabbed the plasma cutter from his belt, not much against rifles, but Better than nothing. Anna swung it at the nearest soldier. Sparks flew as it tore through armor plates. The core's hum deepened, growing almost deafening. Blue light burst from the floor, throwing the soldiers back. A shockwave rippled outward, knocking weapons from their hands and sending them staggering. Aaron stared at the console. The core had activated a defensive protocol, one he hadn't triggered. "Kale!" he shouted over the roar. "Hey, the core's doing something on its own." Lyra looked up at the central column. The blue light was no longer steady, it was spiraling. Upward into a beam that shot through the dome, into the clouds, and out into space. "That's not just the beacon," she said. "It's calling something." Outside, the Empire dropships began to retreat, as if sensing what was coming. The Zoric soldiers still inside scrambled for the exits. Their discipline broken for the first time, Aaron turned to Kale. "I think someone answered." As if to prove him right, the console's display shifted, showing a pattern of symbols he didn't recognize, then translating them into simple words. "Hold your ground. We are coming." Kale's eyes widened. "Who?" before Aaron could answer, the beam from the core brightened to blinding white. Far above in the upper atmosphere, dozens of new contacts appeared on the sensor's massive ships, their designs unlike anything Aaron had ever seen. The crew's voices came over the "Come!" shouting reports, "Unknown fleet incoming!" Not Sereth, not Zarek. They're human. Aaron's breath caught. Kale gripped his arm. "Aaron, what did you do?" He looked back at the glowing core. "I didn't just fix your world. I woke up mine," sighed the first of the unknown. Ships began to descend, their dark silhouettes blotting out the stars. The Empire troops were already fleeing into the wilderness. The war for Sereth was ending, but the war for the galaxy was about to begin.